Okay, welcome. By now you would have watched the video where we interviewed Jacinta from the Brightside Cafe here on campus at UniSA. So what we're going to do now is spend a little bit of time looking at that particular interview, because this is an example of how you might start to find out about the data and analytics needs of stakeholders. So let's watch for a while. So really I just want to find out a bit about you, the business, because I think that's a really important thing for students to understand. It's like, what is it that makes your business successful for you, and also for your customers? So first of all, tell me a bit about Brightside and its story.
Okay, so Brightside, I've been running for just over a year. We just clocked over 1 year anniversary in July. I started this out with my partner, so we started up as a pop-up. Last year we were offered this business for 6 months, and we ran it as a pop-up, and then we were offered a 3-year contract earlier this year, so here to stay now, I suppose.
Oh, well done, well done. And so you notice that I start with some opening questions, which are pretty common questions you can ask almost any stakeholder, be they a business person, a CEO. What is it about your business that you're interested in? What makes it successful? And we also start to bring the element around what your customers think as well. And finding out about the story of the business is a great way to start, because in it you'll get lots of extra information about not only how long the business has been around, where it's been from, but some of the aspirations about where it will go, because all of that has an impact on what type of analytics you would develop. Let's keep watching. And how long have you been in the coffee business for?
I've been making coffee for probably near on 15 years. It was something that I always did when I was when I was studying at university myself. So I worked part-time in coffee shops, and I suppose I came to love it. So it was always something I did on weekends, even when I finished my studies. Yeah, it's always been a pretty big part of my life.
Okay, and have you always... So you'll notice that Jacinta's new into this business, and we kind of knew that through the pop-up shop. So this makes a difference, because often you'll have dealings with stakeholders who are, say, been in an organisation for a long time, and their data needs are just about dealing with the pain points that they experience on a day-to-day basis. And they can be quite serious ones, like, for instance, the organisation has to downsize. So they then need to identify like areas of the organisation that maybe need to be shut down or outsourced. It could be that they need to find who are their better and worst performing staff. And so knowing where an organisation is in its life cycle is crucial to getting an understanding of what their data needs are. Let's keep watching. So basically you're doing it kind of on weekends. Did you have another job as well, or another profession?
Yeah. So I studied law, so I was a lawyer for 3 years. I suppose I technically am still a lawyer.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was...
Don't worry, I'll pay for this.
Every 6 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I worked as a lawyer for 3 years for a couple of different firms. I really enjoyed law. I found it really interesting. In fact, I still do a little bit of work for law firms that I used to work for. But I suppose ultimately it was... For one, I caught the business bug, I suppose, so to speak. I started running a coffee van on weekends. Yeah. So I was working as a lawyer during the week, and then on weekends I would run my coffee van. And I think through that I really got a bit hooked on being an entrepreneur and running businesses. So I thought I'd sort of take that as far as I could and see where that would take me.
So law to coffee. So you notice that one of the things you want to do is find out a bit of, not so much about the business, or as well as the business, but about the person who's your stakeholder. So you can see Jacinta here has previously been a lawyer and still got those skills. So this might start you thinking that the kind of data that she might be looking at is possibly going to be a bit more sophisticated and involved, because she's got that kind of analytical background through being a lawyer, than maybe someone who doesn't have that background at all. So little snippets of information are starting to build a picture about what's going to be most useful for this particular stakeholder. Let's keep watching. Coffee, a bit of a change.
Absolutely.
What motivated that?
Look, a lot of it was running a business and really finding that really invigorating and really wanting to keep going with that. But also lifestyle was a huge factor for me. So
What do you mean by lifestyle?
yeah, so
I mean, I'm presuming not working 7 days a week.
yes,
Yeah.
So I mean, look, this is a very different lifestyle, obviously, to being a lawyer. And I think I found in law I was working really long hours, stuck behind a computer screen, you know, a high-rise building in the city. And yeah, whilst I found the work really interesting, I think I really wanted to get out of that sort of lifestyle and give something else a go, something else that I was passionate about. So for me, I'm on my feet all day out here. I'm always running around business. You don't stop. It's a 24-hour-a-day job. You're always thinking about it. But I think when it's something that you love and you're really passionate about, you want to see it do well, you want to constantly improve it, then I don't mind that. And it's really lovely to get to sit outside here, talk to people all day. And for me, yeah, this lifestyle is one I really, really love.
So how much? So now we're starting to get into the details of really what you would call success measures in terms of how the data can be used. So Jacinta's made some pretty strong statements there about how lifestyle is important to her personally, but also something that contributes to the success of the business. So lifestyle, it's a pretty broad concept. So we need to start to run that thread through the rest of the interview to find out a bit more about this thing of lifestyle. Let's keep watching. Do you think the lifestyle, which is kind of a big motivating factor for you doing this, as well as the entrepreneur side of it, part of the success of the business? Because there was a coffee shop here before, but just from my observation, you know, coming here, there's a bit more vibrancy about it.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of the key behind it is I love being here, and I think that's probably probably not difficult to tell. I know what it's like to be sitting behind a desk all day, and for me, this is. I love being here. I'm really passionate about it. I get really excited to come to work every morning and really excited to speak to my customers and just also to try different things in the cafe. I mean, I'm constantly changing things up and trying new things. And yeah, I suppose when you run your own business, putting effort in and seeing the reward yourself it's really satisfying.
So do you get feedback from customers that that's what they like as well?
Absolutely, yeah. I get that feedback a lot. A lot of people say you can tell you really enjoy being here. But also, yeah, it's the satisfaction of somebody having a nice coffee, enjoying their first transaction of the day, coming here for a chat, all that sort of stuff is, yeah, you get the direct feedback, but also the people coming here.
So a year on. So now we're starting to understand a bit more what lifestyle means from Jacinta's perspective. And as you can see, we're starting to move into the area of customer experience. So now, as an analytics professional, you should start thinking about, okay, well, how do we quantify and understand that experience? So she's talked about, you know, the importance of this being often the first part of the day, starting the day well. She's talked about her passion for the role and a passion for the business and willing to try different things out. So now we're getting into the motivation of our intended stakeholder, intended end user here. So given that this is her own business and so she's got a stake in it being running well, then maybe she's going to be open to some things because she'll be the decision maker about whether the data is useful for her. What this also does, even this early on in this interview, is that we know what stuff needs to be part of our final set of products that we would deliver to someone like Jacinta. So if the analytics we develop don't match with her passion around the business being different, the business providing a great customer experience, and the business meeting her and the business's lifestyle, then effectively we'll probably miss the mark. Let's keep watching. And you're doing really well. Next plans, will we see Brightside on every corner in every suburb, or what do you think?
Yeah, it's always something that I'm thinking about. I think, yeah, when you're in that sort of business world, you are constantly thinking of what's the next opportunity and what happens next. So I just recently sold my coffee van business, so I was running the two concurrently, but it just sort of got to the end where it's a lot easier to come in and switch on lights in a cafe and to start a cafe than it is to be taking a coffee caravan out and hitching it on and working out power and electricity and things like that. So it was sort of time to let that baby off into the world, and I've done that, and that's great. But yeah, always looking at the next step, and I'm not exactly sure what the future holds. You know, thinking about the franchise model, thinking about whether I try something completely different with a completely different identity, or just always thinking about what that next step looks like.
So if you were going to... So now, this series of questions in this part of the interview, we're starting to understand a bit about where the business might go, because as you can see there, I suggest, do you want to go really big with this? Because if her idea is to franchise and have hundreds of stores, which we have a look about later on about how successful that may be, the kind of data that she would need to help inform the decisions about whether she does that, when she does it, where she does it, and then managing those stores on a long-term basis is quite different to if she had said, I'm really happy with what I've got here, it's got everything I need, I don't have any plans to grow. So this is getting a sense of where the organisation is going to go. You can see also towards the end, she's got a number of thoughts, but this is where data and analytics can assist. It can help her start to frame up the different options and help her have a more data-driven approach to considering different options, and hopefully avoid her going down a particular path which ends up being costly and time inefficient. Let's keep watching. Kind of scale up, so to speak. I imagine from what we're hearing that the experience, the lifestyle you have here when you walk in is a key success factor. So just say you're going to have 4 more stores, how would you go about finding, unless you're going to clone yourself, how would you go about finding the right staff and replicating that experience? Because it seems like that's part of the formula.
It absolutely is, and that's always something that's very much on my mind. Is that I think that's probably why I'm tempted to try something that's a little bit different, because Brightside does rely pretty heavily on personalities and big personalities. Look, it's just something that I will have to think about when I do take that next step. But obviously, I'm always thinking about ways that I can make this place replicable or start something.
So you can see I've now started to join together what was really a key differentiator for her business, and something that started from her own personal motivation, lifestyle. And I've started to tease and delve into that one a little bit more, because it seems from just my initial questions and listening to Jacinta that if she ends up having lots of different stores but can't replicate the customer experience, then possibly those other stores won't be as successful as this one. The other thing you'll notice is that in the past she's worked long hours and that hasn't been satisfying for her. So another thing we'd want to keep in consideration, and we would check with her later, is like, well, if you want to look at opening different stores, whether it's 4 or 40, a criteria for her is really going to be, I don't want to be working 7 days a week like I did in the past. So we're starting to get a sense of the different threads that need to be considered when we're looking at data. Let's keep watching.
And that comes down to, having the right staff. Staff is huge. Having the right product, having the right business model. Like, they're all sort of things that I have to be thinking about all the time. Yeah.
So so now we're getting into, well, what would be the particular success elements if she opened another Brightside or another 3 Brightsides? And this is where we're starting to take our understanding of customer experience a bit further. So talked about the staff, personalities, talked about products. Let's keep watching. Talked a bit about kind of improvements and trying new things out. So on a week-to-week basis, what would you like to be doing a little bit better?
So, I suppose when you run a business, you're always thinking about how you can do things differently and ultimately, let's be honest, how you can make more money. Yeah. So whether that is cutting back on existing costs, all of my cost of goods, the cost it takes me to make products, whether I sort of buy certain things in or prepare them on site, my staff costs, all sorts of different things, that ultimately will translate to making more money. But then also, I suppose it's part of my creative spirit as well, is that I'm also trying to come up with different ways to make the customer experience more satisfying and more rewarding. So, coming up.
Let's just pause there. So now we're getting into more detail again. And so part of my questions around, leading off with, on a week-to-week basis, how could it improve, is looking at an opportunity for analytics to help her in the day-to-day running. So Jacinta, because it's a new business, but also because she has explicitly stated it several times, is always looking for areas to improve. Now, you may end up having interviews with people who that's not the case. They set their business up, it's been hard work, and really they think they're on a winning model and there's no reason for them to change things. In those situations, you'd probably lead the conversation more into, well, you know, what might come along that might change whether your customers stay with you or not, because your focus might be a bit more about customer loyalty. Whereas Jacinta's got a slightly different approach here. The other thing does is she makes it quite clear, while it's not the sole priority, is that money is a factor. And so we're starting to get a lot more information around the kind of questions that she would need answers to be able to weigh up different options for the growth of her business, but also improving the existing business on a week-to-week basis. Let's keep watching.
Different event ideas, and we're getting a liquor license soon, so that'll be another way to mix things up a bit, and yeah, just constantly thinking of ways to change things up. I think a lot of people like variety in here, so yeah, it's good.
One of the things that's is, I imagine, both an opportunity and a bit of a challenge is the physical space you've got, because you can only put so much food in the counter, you can only have so much of a menu. How do you make those kind of decisions? You know, like, it's a bit of a tricky thing.
It is, yeah. And look, I suppose my attitude is that I don't want to. I suppose I refuse to accept that we will be limited by the size of the fridge or the amount of chairs we have in here and things like that. I'm always thinking that I would love us to grow to the point where, we don't need to, you know, we get a bigger fridge, or we, you know, so that's always going to be the end goal. And we just constantly we move with the times. We also, I mean, one thing that we are constantly it's sort of one of the good aspects of being within a university, but one of the negative aspects of being within a university is that we are on a bit of a timeline. So we have uni holidays, and we know when to expect them. We know it's going to be quiet at certain times of the year, and it's kind of coming up with different ways that we can counteract the effects of those holidays, so when there are less people around. So look, it's great to have a guaranteed clientele, being smack bang in the middle of the university, but it also does mean that we will have quiet periods. So one thing I did recently was advertise in a local publication that circulated to residents in the area, and as a result of that, we've got a lot of people who live and work in the area coming in here. So you know, it's just trying new things and coming up with different ideas for how we can.
So you can see some of the questions I was asking around trying to understand the business more led to possible areas of investigation, like inventory management. So like many cafes, she's only got so many seats and she's only got so much counter space. And so for a stakeholder who runs something like a bakery, or you know, a small shop like this, that can be a key factor about whether they're successful or not, and also whether they're stressed. If the staff are stressed, it creates a negative customer experience, and so that could have an impact on ongoing trade. So we've had a look then at like the growth plans, her motivation, what's important to her, customer experience. We've had a look at what can be done on a day-to-day basis, and we're also starting to look at possibilities around using analytics for stuff like inventory management, helping to decide which are the best type of menu items to have. And then Jacinta started explaining to her about some of her marketing and promotional efforts. So as you can see, she's passionate, she's keen, and so there's lots of things that can be tried out. What this also starts to tell me is, as I'm interviewing her, is that she's going to be more open to, within time and money constraints, looking at different types of analytical solutions. Whereas often you'll speak with a stakeholder and they have a very pre-fixed idea about what they want to be doing, and as long as that matches up really with their end goal, which you understand, then that's okay too. Let's keep watching.
Can minimise the damage, I suppose, of not having customers here every day. So,
do you do anything like catering, like some coffee shops do?
We do a lot of catering. In fact, I think that was probably something that an aspect of the business that I underestimated coming into this, was how big catering actually is. It's got huge.
Right.
So yeah, being a university campus, a lot of people hire out the spaces, or a lot of the staff are constantly having meetings and workshops. So yeah, we do a lot of catering, and that was something that when we started out, our offering was probably pretty basic, but we've evolved, and we've just recently released a new catering menu, and it's become really big. So we've done multiple jobs today already.
So here she's now getting into a bit more detail of a particular aspect of the business, which is about catering. And so, by her own admission, it's been a lot more successful than she's planned. So this also provides an opportunity to be able to bring in predictive analytics. So if you had enough data and you're able to provide some predictive analytics into, someone like Jacinta, she would have had some advanced knowledge of actually, well, this catering is going to be a lot more better, more successful than I expected. So she may make a decision to introduce it earlier or introduce it later, wait till she's got more staff, etc. And even the way she's done it is fine, but really what we're trying to say here is that analytics can make the guesswork, a bit less about guesswork. The other area of predictive analytics that we can start to have a look at is basically, well, the uni students are there for like 3/4 of the year. How can we predict when they're going to be there? What kind of patterns could we have a look at? Because basically the number of people who walk in the door will have a big impact on things like, what they buy, how much we need to stock, how many staff I need, etc. Let's keep watching.
Yeah.
Listen, thank you so much for spending a bit of time with us. So, and thank you once again for Jacinta. I think during the course we'll start to tease apart some of the kind of data and analytics needs that might assist someone like Jacinta in running her business. So, thank you, and all the best for the future.
Thanks, Stuart. Cheers.
So we just pause there and pause on a nice smile as well. So hopefully you've got a bit of a sense in just an 11-minute interview. We've actually found out lots and lots of information around the possibility for analytics that could help a business like Jacinta help. And so what's really important here is that during these initial engagement is the focus is on them, not the focus on you. And don't be forced into a bit of a checklist approach. Let the conversation go where it will, offer leading questions, and always be responsive to where the stakeholder wants to take it. This could have been a very different interview and a different conversation. So what would we do after this step? Well, normally, a bit like I've spoken to you today, we would record these ideas down, we'd have a whole lot more questions, and then I'd go back to Jacinta and say, well, hi Jacinta, how are you going? From our initial conversation, this is what we're starting to get a bit of a sense of that might be useful where data could apply. Being a small business owner and having limited time and money, we'd probably pick, okay, 3 or 4 things you'd like to investigate. Which one would you like to start with first? And from there, we'd actually start our journey working with Brightside Cafe and analytics.